Hello and welcome back to Pokemon. I almost said Sword and Shield Wi-Fi battles. It is not Sword and Shield Wi-Fi battles. Hello and welcome back to VGC Progress Report. It's been a little bit since the last episode. I meant to do a team builder, and then I never ended up actually needing to use that team. So now we're here, doing a little bit of a different kind of video, where we are going over the the bands of Series 6. So we got the Series 6 ban list yesterday, as of day of recording, which is Friday the 21st. We got a Series 6 rule change, and they announced the first ever ban list for Pokemon that isn't just like no using the thing if it's not in the dex, or no using legendaries. Which I think is pretty unprecedented. Nobody expected this to happen, but the top 10 Pokemon from singles and the top 10 Pokemon from doubles on their battle spot ladder got banned. And because of that, and they're both banned in both formats. Because of that, there's ended up being a total of 16 Pokemon banned, because Cinderace, Dragapult, Rillaboom, and Togekiss are both were on the other list. Both were on the same list. And then on the doubles list, it was Indeedee, Incineroar, Torkoal, Tyranitar, and Venusaur. And then on the singles list, it was Hippowdon, Mimikyu, Porygon 2, Gyarados, Magnezone. Also on the VGC list was Whimsicott. So the biggest bans for the current format, for VGC, of course, are Cinderace, Dragapult, Excadrill, Rillaboom, Togekiss, Tyranitar, Torkoal, and Venusaur. More importantly, Torkoal, but having Venusaur gone as well makes it very difficult for Sun. Cinderace is a very popular Pokemon, kind of shatters super offensive teams. Super offensive teams were hella using Cinderace and Dragapult. Sand is dead. If Sand only lost T-Tard, they would just move to using Hippo or Gigalith. But Excadrill is gone now, which makes Sand very difficult to use. They lost T-Tard and Hippowdon. So right now, Sand's only Sand setter is Gigalith, which isn't a bad Pokemon. Gigalith is a pretty good Pokemon, but it's not as good as these two are, in my opinion. Gyarados getting banned actually is a significant thing, because Gyarados could have been used a ton in this format now that Incineroar's gone, so it doesn't have to worry about Intimidate, and it could have been a good alternative Intimidator. Rillaboom being gone and Indeedee being gone is really big, as there's not really good terrain setters anymore. And Togekiss being gone is the premier redirect Pokemon, so places are going to look otherwise. Clefairy gets a lot better because of that as well. So those are the bans, and what really sucks for me is a lot of the teams I was experimenting with were using Rillaboom, and then the one team that I wasn't experimenting with Rillaboom had Hippowdon on it, so now I kind of have to go back onto the drawing board and think about what I want to do moving forward. And I think Series 6 is going to be a really creative team-building format, because you kind of have to use things outside of the box. I know people have already started experimenting with Thwackey now that Indeedee is... or now that Rillaboom is gone, because Thwackey... will be able to set grassy terrain as well, and still be able to one-shot things like Primarina, which is still allowed in the format, which also got a ton better. But those are the bans. Let me know what you guys think down below. It really, really changes the format. Obviously, because these were the 10 most popular Pokemon being used, right? So the format just completely gets shaken up. But I kind of wanted to go over the Mons that get the most buff out of everything. So Pincurchin gets a ton of a buff increase. Pincurchin suffered a little bit because of its bad stats, and the Pokemon it supports not being able to function without Electric Terrain being up, like a Alolan Raichu. But now that the only other terrain setter is Galarian Weezing, Other than that, they're using max moves to overwrite. It's a lot harder for terrain to have for electric terrain to be overwritten, which means Pincurchin and Alolan Raichu get hell of a buff going into this next format. They don't have to worry about like they don't have to worry about Rillaboom. They don't have to worry about Indeedee. Well, Pincurchin was already kind of being used as an anti-meta option. It still didn't have the offensive pressure, and its allies didn't give the offensive pressure if Electric Terrain vanished. Because they switch in Rillaboom or they switch in Indeedee. So, like, this is a big deal. Because now stuff like Alolan Raichu just gets very, very strong. The next Pokemon that kind of gets buffed is Comfey. And not specifically Comfey gets buffed. Comfey is obviously going to be used. But Goodra gets hella buffed because, like, Goodra and Lapras get buffed because of Comfey being a lot better. Comfey also becomes better because like, it no longer has to worry about not being able to target opposing Pokemon. It now lets us it can now target them because now there's no more Psychic Terrain that you have to worry about without max moves being the ones used. So now Comfey and Goodra get a lot better because fucking, like, Goodra is already going to be really good this format. Comfey makes that better because Comfey lets self-procs, essentially, for Goodra. Colossal also gets buffed because it doesn't have to worry about Rillaboom putting kind of a stop to it. It doesn't have to worry about Sand outpacing it. Doesn't have to worry about a whole bunch of different aspects. So Colossal gets better, not a ton better, but it does get better. Politoed. And Politoed is here not because of Politoed, but because the only weather that didn't get hit is rain. Fucking rain is so good right now. Rain gets so buffed going forward because there is no other weather. The only other weather that exists, obviously, Gigalith. But Sand doesn't have a really good offensive Sandmon. Ninetales, fucking hard because and Ninetales is bad, right? Because it just doesn't have the bulk like Torkoal did, and it doesn't offer the same things. And Sun is also dying because they don't have Chlorophyllmon anymore. I don't even really know the Chlorophyllmon that's in format other than Leafeon, and Leafeon isn't super great. Primarina gets better because of no more Rillaboom. Amoonguss gets better because of no more Indeedee, no more Rillaboom. Terrakion gets hella buffed because of the lack of Rillaboom. So does Cobalt less so. Also because of no more Indeedee and no more Togekiss, Redirect is a lot harder to get, so they're more reliant on... so the thing that's going to beat up into it can just wear safety goggles because now the best form of redirection is Amoonguss' Rage Powder. Rhyperior also gets buffed because of lack of Rillaboom. Like I said, Goodra is already good. I think Goodra outside of Comfey will also be good as a counter to Amoonguss stuff. Blastoise gets better with Amoonguss Blastoise being a pretty decent lead. You could just run Goggles on Blastoise to keep it from being put to sleep, and then Rage Powder and Shell Smash, and just start tearing holes through things. You don't have to worry about Rillaboom coming in and revenging you. Urshifu as well gets buffed because of no more Rillaboom. Rillaboom puts a ton of pressure on Urshifu, and no more Togekiss as well. These are the fairy Pokemon in format or like kind of already rough. Obviously, Urshifu isn't like super scary now, but it is still a Pokemon that you should be looking at as a Pokemon that got buffed. And then some of the nerfs I couldn't really think of the biggest Pokemon that aren't going to see play. There's a lot of buffs, which means a lot more things are going to be in play, which obviously changes the nerfs, but nothing I can see directly because of the nerfs, because of the bans that gets nerfed. So Bisharp is kind of in place of all the Defiant and competitive mons. Because there's no more Incineroar, there's a lot less safe Intimidate. Obviously Arcanine is still good, and obviously Hitmontop can be used, but I feel like without Incineroar, there's going to be less teams that actually have Intimidate, because Hitmontop and Arcanine are harder to place on a team. So like Milotic won't be... Milotic might be the exception because of no more Rillaboom, so Milotic kind of gets evened out. Charizard kind of gets shafted because the no more Sun, so Charizard doesn't really have a nice team that he can fit on. Obviously Charizard Clef is still a thing, but it is rougher to use. Virizion out of all three swords gets nerfed the most because it can't do some other gimmicks beside it with like Bulldoze, but obviously Virizion can still be good because it is immune to sleep from Amoonguss, and now Amoonguss is really really big. And then Zam also kind of will see a complete fall in usage. Zam is completely dead because of no more E-Force spam without extra steps. Anyways, that's just quickly what I wanted to do in today's video, was touch on the bans and what got better and what got worse. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching today's episode of VGC Progress Report. There might be another one next week where I kind of go into a little bit of team building, what I think I'm going to be trying to experiment with a little bit in Series 6. Anyways, I'll see you guys then. Peace.